They can. Joanne and I. Hi, everybody out there in Zoom.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so let's first start with some introductions of ourselves and what today's topic is. So my name is Krista Silvius, and I'm here from the law firm of Surprenant and Beneski. We focus on estate planning and elder law. We have offices in Hyannis, Easton, not Eastham, Easton, and New Bedford. But we cover all of southeastern Massachusetts, Cape Cod and the islands, and do virtual meetings as well as in-person meetings here at the COA or wherever is convenient for you.
And my name is Joanne Scorzelli, and I am with a hospital called Vibra Hospital of Southeastern Massachusetts. We're located in New Bedford, and we work very closely with Cape Cod Hospital and Falmouth Hospital to take their patients there for either medical rehab or physical rehabilitation. So think of Spalding Rehab up in Sandwich. It's like that. We do that type of rehab, but we also do a much higher level of rehab. We also do ventilated patients, dialysis patients, and some people that have a long list of pre-existing conditions. And the bottom line, just to sum it up, it's a hospital for anybody that you think needs daily physician monitoring, because there's doctors there of all the specialties, just like the doctors at Cape Cod Hospital. We have every specialty right there, and they take care of our patients, and you can stay a little bit longer if you need to, as opposed to like an acute rehab hospital. That's just to give you a rundown. Krista and I work really closely together for probably getting closer to 10 years. And both of us are huge patient advocates also. So we wanted to share that with you today.
So the law firm that I represent was here in the spring, and Rebecca Spinner, who's one of our attorneys, did a program called Estate Planning 101. So some of you I recognize and know that you attended that program. Today's program, there might have been a little confusion because I think it was also promoted as Estate Planning 101. And it's actually Documents and Advocacy as You Age is the name of the program that we're going to share today, okay? For those of you who have been coming to the Eastham COA for quite some time, you may remember that Joanne and I were actually here in 2019, before the pandemic started. And we were here, and the program essentially was the same program, and it's called Quality of Life. And we were part of a volunteer group working with Cape Cod Hospital to make sure that the residents of Cape Cod understood what quality of life could potentially be and what was needed as far as documents and a plan to make sure that you were able to have the quality of life that you would want through your entire life. Okay, so that's really what we're going to focus on today. As important as having your physical documents, which I'll get to in a moment, we recommend that you have a clear and open discussions with those who are closest to you. And you want to be able to have conversations about some of these topics. What are your healthcare wishes? Who should be responsible for communicating those wishes to the doctors on your behalf? This is really about situations where you might end up incapacitated. And incapacitated doesn't mean that you're near death. Incapacity is about, you might be in a car accident and briefly be in a coma. And you're gonna be fine after, a couple of months. But during that time, you need someone to be able to make your healthcare decisions for you and to speak on your behalf. Who would you want to manage your assets in the event you are unable to do so for yourself? You want to be thinking through, is it a family member, a close friend, a professional? Who can be able to make decisions in regards to the things that you own and the things you care about? And how do you wish your assets to be distributed at the point of your passing? This can become a very complicated process. I'm sure you've all heard about probate and the complications that families go through when an estate ends up in probate. And essentially, all estates do go through probate. Yes, you can have a will. Yes, you can have beneficiaries, but a will actually facilitates the closing of your estate through the probate process. So let's talk about the documents that you would need. These are, in our office, we call them the foundational documents, and we recommend everyone 18 years or older have these documents. Because one thing you should recognize is your 19-year-old grandson who's off at college, if something were to happen to him and his parents did not have these documents in place, because he is of age, he is an adult, the parents may not be able to get information from the hospital about his condition, his prognosis, and what was going to happen for his care. You have to have the documents in place to prove that he wanted his private medical information to be shared with those who are caring for him, okay? So those documents that everyone 18 and older should have, a healthcare proxy. There are different kinds of healthcare proxies. There can be additional contingencies written into your healthcare proxy that help you through the different phases of life. I'm not gonna get into the complexity of that, but imagine if you had certain medications that you needed to be on, those would be built into that healthcare proxy. A HIPAA authorization. HIPAA is the law that protects your private healthcare information. Okay, so when you have an authorization, that allows the people who are advocating for you, your spouse, your friend, your sister, whomever it is, to be able to make phone calls to the insurance company on your behalf and work out situations with them, to talk to the pharmacist about the medication that has been prescribed to you. There's a lot of instances where I would need to have a HIPAA release, HIPAA authorization, in order to prove to whomever I'm trying to get information from, or to make a decision on your behalf for, I need to give them that release. An advance directive you might know as a living will. An advance directive is not legally binding in the state of Massachusetts. But an advance directive is where you write down your wishes, your concerns, the way that you want the quality of your life to be supported through different, if you are in an illness or you were at the end of your life. This document communicates not only to your loved one, who is your healthcare proxy, but also to your medical providers, how you want to be cared for and what quality of life during an episode of illness would feel like and mean to you. So you can also go a little bit further with an advance directive, and you can write about directions you have for your funeral, or how you would like things to be managed after your passing. Okay. A durable power of attorney is where you assign an agent to make legal and financial decisions on your behalf. So let's say, again, let's go back to that instance where you might be in a coma for a limited time. Maybe you have a cancer diagnosis and you're just not up to making decisions for yourself. A really good example is if you have an individually owned financial account, like an IRA or a 401k. You know what a RMD is, a required minimum distribution? You are the only person who can make a change or to take your RMD. So you need a power of attorney to let your spouse or whomever you're assigning as your agent act on your behalf and facilitate an RMD. And that's just one example. Perhaps your situation in healthcare has led to, now you need to go to assisted living. Well, somebody needs to facilitate the sale of your property in order to afford going to assisted living. So there's lots of different scenarios where a durable power of attorney can help you and help your the people that you've asked to support you during that downtime, it helps them facilitate your decisions and your needs during that time, okay? And then, of course, you probably all recognize a last will and testament, but again, that is instructions to the court on how to manage anything and everything that you own during your life. Okay, and that is what helps facilitate the probate process, minimizing cost, minimizing confusion, frustration. If you've ever been, we call them a personal representative now, but if you've ever been an executor of a will, you know it's a very heavy job. So when it's all written down and the instructions are in place, you take a huge burden off of that person that you've asked to take on that role, okay? All right, I think that's a good place to just break. Does anybody have any questions about anything I've said so far? Yes.
My son is in the Peace Corps and he's in Africa. And now I'm concerned about a healthcare proxy. We just get the form, or does it have to be notarized? How does that work? That would direct that his parents would get, if he was in an accident or something.
So being in the Peace Corps, the question was, how do you facilitate a healthcare proxy at a distance? I would recommend that, I mean, the Peace Corps probably has some people in place to help facilitate that,
Okay,
but I would make sure that there is somebody, a person who's more locally adjacent to him, if he were to have a medical incident, could step into your shoes, communicate with you, and have that support for him.
so would I have to notarize? For instance, I could get a copy of the healthcare proxy.
Yeah.
Do I need to sign it and have it notarized?
It
And then I
depends.
could make a copy and send it to you.
Yeah, he probably has a healthcare proxy on file with the Peace Corps. You should probably check with him. Like, when you
Okay,
join groups like that, that's usually
Mhm,
part of your
mhm.
process.
okay.
And just being out of the country, their rules and regulations might be a little bit different than ours in the United States. So I think that's why it's a good idea to reach out to them.
To them.
But to
That
answer
makes
your
sense.
question, in most cases, you don't need to get it notarized. You just have to have the form filled out and there's 2 witnesses.
Okay, awesome,
And that's something he can even initiate on his own. He can check with his commander.
awesome.
Go from there.
And whomever you're, asking to be your agent, make sure they have a copy of the healthcare proxy. So it's only as good as the evidence that you have to show your medical provider that I am the person they've asked to make decisions for them.
Thank you.
Where do we get? You can get it from your MD office. You can stop in at the hospital and ask at the reception desk. And, you could also, if you know anybody that's in a nursing home right now, or anyone that works in a nursing home, they have them on file. You can grab one. Krista's office probably has them on
Yeah, so
file that.
when you work with an attorney's office, that's when they will evaluate how, in-depth your healthcare proxy is. The Massachusetts healthcare proxy is available online. You can get that, download it, and use it. But if you have a diagnosis or you have a situation, that you're trying to plan for, I would, if you have a situation that you're trying to plan for, a medical diagnosis or any situation like that, I would see an attorney and have, a more robust healthcare proxy created on your behalf, especially if you, are seeing anything with like a memory loss diagnosis. There are definitely pieces that can be built into your healthcare proxy to provide further protection for you.
And what, did you want to say something, or we didn't?
I don't know if I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Did you say it was 2 kinds of health proxies?
No, 2 witnesses. When you sign the form, that's
That's,
two.
that's
You don't have to know them either.
It's actually better if you don't know your witnesses.
Yeah, good.
You said online, is that mass.gov?
If you go through mass.gov, there's a lot of, other sites that you can use, honor
Honor your choices.
honoryourchoices.org is another one that has a, HCP on it, but If you want the official Massachusetts
Yeah.
HCP, I would go to mass.gov.
Okay.
So there's two things I want, go ahead, you can, there's two things I want to elaborate on as far as the healthcare proxy goes, but go ahead first.
Mine's on something.
Oh, so as far as the healthcare, very, very important. I think she started to hit on it at one point. Whoever you choose, you need to let them know you're choosing, okay? And there's reasons you're choosing this person, not because they're your oldest son, they're your oldest daughter, not because you live in Harwich and your daughter does too. It doesn't matter if your daughter lives in California. Of course, it makes it easier when they live near you because they can join you at the hospital. But everybody these days has access to the computer, your copy. If your daughter lives in California, they reach out to the daughter in California and they provide it. The reason I say that is because blindly people go in and they just choose the oldest son. The way it is. The oldest son doesn't even know that he's a healthcare proxy until something happens. If you're lucky enough that the healthcare proxy is in the patient's chart.
Another thing that we see is divorced couples.
That's what I was gonna bring up, yes.
And the ex-spouse is still on your HCP. Is that the person you want making medical decisions on your behalf? Make sure that you are updating all of your agents and updating all of your beneficiaries. This is something you do on an annual basis. Double check every detail, the addresses, the phone numbers, the spelling of names. Make sure it's accurate.
In my line of work, I worked with critically ill patients, so I'm always in the ICUs. I have seen very good ex-spouses that didn't know that they were still on the healthcare, so nobody updated it. They've been very good. They step in and they're a trooper and they do the right thing by their ex. But I've seen also the other end, where they don't care about that person and they've had problems their whole life. And that person just kind of skips out. And the hospital can't find them, can't make decisions, can't move on, can't come to me, can't go to rehab unless we have healthcare proxies in place. Because a place can't own that patient. If there's no healthcare proxy, how do you know what to do and where to send the patient after? So it really holds up the process. And then just to educate you on what you should do with that healthcare proxy, once you get one, say you download it online, there's a couple things you can do. First, you want to get it into your PCP's hands because you want him to have a file.
Your primary care physician, you want to
Yeah,
make sure
sorry.
your doctor has your healthcare proxy on file.
And then to be safer too, if you're ever in Cape Cod Hospital, you want to stop in Cape Cod at the registration desk area, you go in there and you tell them that you want your healthcare proxy to be on file. And that would cover you for Falmouth Hospital too, because it's Cape Cod Healthcare. And so one system goes to the other system. But it's good to have it on file of record. I will tell you that we just had a very scary life and death crisis with my sister-in-law. And the first thing that they said to us is there is no healthcare proxy. Thank God my brother is alive and said, we will talk to you because you're the husband. That's it. We'll talk to you and that's it. I'm the medical person. I'm the one he needed by the side to tell everything to. Anyways, all these days go by and there's a clinician pulling up her chart and going through everything. And I said, wait, there's a healthcare proxy. I just saw it. Back it up. Oh my God, it has my name on it. So now they would open up and talk to me and let me be part of her decision-making, which in her case was extremely important. But anyways, that's enough, I think, about the healthcare proxy, unless you guys, we want to emphasize how important it is and the right person and tell the person.
And you have to ask them, don't you?
Well, it's nice to ask them because some people don't want that responsibility.
Right.
Listen, just say that we're a married couple, because we can be these days, right? Since we're married. And, oh my God, I lost my train of thought.
asked them if they wanted-
Wait a second.
You want to ask them if they want to do it.
Yeah, so you want to ask them, because what if she doesn't have the heart to let me go?
That's
She
right.
loves me so much, she doesn't care that I'm 96 and I'm on a ventilator. She's not gonna let me go, and there's people like that.
Yes.
I've seen it too many times. It doesn't matter, they can't let you go, you're their mother, their father, their wife, their husband, and reality isn't reality until it's happening right in front of your
This is
face.
why, though, that you have the conversations with your agents.
Yes.
If you're picking people to be your healthcare proxy, you're giving them access to your private medical information. You're asking them to act as your power of attorney. Have the conversations when you make those decisions, make sure they're comfortable to your point, make sure that they understand what your wishes are. That's why it's important to get the advance directive written, because that is physical evidence to them that they can use to guide them through the process of letting you go on your terms.
And why doesn't Massachusetts allow it?
Well, I think that you'll see soon that it will probably be integrated into the process.
Yeah, what's the reason now, though? I'm not asking that question.
Yeah,
I live in Massachusetts.
yep, that's your answer.
Massachusetts is great.
Yeah, to be sure.
If you have a few children, is there value to put, can you name more than one person on the healthcare process?
You can name, so
There's always a primary.
Good
yeah,
idea.
you have a primary agent and you should always have a secondary agent, because someone could be traveling, someone could like not be available
Well,
for
that
some
person could
reason.
be hurt.
They
in
could have
the
been with you,
hospital.
so.
And
Oh, go ahead.
sorry,
Okay.
just like for my father-in-law, I had to approach him. He knew he was 92, oxygen was keeping him alive. There's 3 kids in the family. Well, my husband, I wanted to go by his wishes and let him go, stop the oxygen, let him go to heaven like he wanted to. The other 2 children didn't want that. So one of the other children was a healthcare proxy. So I said, listen, he's not gonna let you go. You wanna pick somebody that's gonna let you go. My husband's gonna let you go. Because, not because he wants you dead, yes, he wants to honor your wishes, he understood the respect that he was giving and doing for his father. So his father did change him and he got his wish,
Right.
but it wasn't easy. Other kids get involved. Go ahead.
Is there a limit to how many you can have?
No,
Yeah.
but what,
I
you
believe.
should
It's a little
think about the
sticky.
complexity of
Yeah.
that, okay?
No, because like Chris is saying, if you have 2 and you have your primary and you have your secondary, but then you have those advanced directives in place, you are telling everybody. It's not your daughter telling the other 2 kids. You know, it's you said it out of your mouth, and it's written down, and that's proof. And the healthcare proxy is able to take that proof and show the other kids, she wanted this.
And that's again, why you have the conversations while you are of sound mind and everybody is on the same page. They hear it directly from you, what you want. It's a lot easier to honor your wishes when they've heard it from you.
And this isn't just about our older people, us old people. It's about, like, the 30-year-old should be telling you what they want. You know, when I was 14, I lost my 17-year-old friend. A week before that in our hometown, 18-year-old senior got killed in a car accident. That kid was gonna be a vegetable. His parents kept him alive on the life support, knowing that he was gonna be brain dead, but they couldn't say goodbye to their son. He lived. When that happened, my friend said to his parents, if that ever happens to me, don't do it. Guess what? A couple months later, it happened to my friend. So his dad, it's awful, his dad let him go off the ventilator because he knew he was gonna be brain dead. He wasn't coming back. Like, that's how important it is.
So let's keep going
Yeah.
because there's a lot to cover.
Okay.
This is a good time to talk about taking inventory. So, one of the reasons that we at our office like people to come in and have a consultation is because it forces you to start to get organized. I know it sounds awful, but we help you through the process and we guide you. But the first thing really is to take some inventory. Make sure that you understand kind of everything that is in your world. Your bank accounts, your retirement savings, your cars, your properties, anything that has your name on it. And this can be tough because how many people have opened up a bank account at Cape Cod 5 and think they've closed it and it still has $1,500 sitting in it? Those are the things that are ancillary that could be out and about and you want to collect it and organize it. So here's just a list: life insurance, real estate, automobiles, tangible personal property. That's things like antiques and furniture, artwork, bank accounts, certificates of deposit, annuities, IRAs. Anything that's individually owned is very difficult. So make sure you have all the proper documentation and listed beneficiaries. 401ks, 403bs, your pension plan, any other investments, any business interests that you might have, and future inheritances, interest in estate or trust. Okay, so if your parents are alive and you are anticipating something coming from them, you have to account for that as well. Okay? All right. Just want to mention digital accounts. You have a digital legacy. If you have Facebook accounts, LinkedIn accounts, you have anything, where you might have a digital account with Target or your grocery store, anything like that. Do you want that to live on? Do you want people to have access to that? You have to think about all of those things in your passwords and get that all organized so that the person that you choose can shut it down. Okay, I think we've talked a lot about beneficiary designations, but I can't stress how important this is. Please, after today, go home and double check everything. And it is important to make sure it's accurate, spelling, dates, everything counts.
And updated.
Because there could be somebody on your beneficiaries that is no longer with us, or maybe you don't feel the same way when you, you build it out. All right, we did talk about the advance directive and how important that is to convey your wishes at end of life. Anything else you want to add about that, Joanne, the advance directive?
Not really, except just to elaborate, like you said, that if you do put everything into order by seeing an attorney, like I did a few years ago through Surprenant Beneski shortly after we met, and I got to know the company and I went with them. I didn't realize how intricate it can be. I had to stop at some point. I mean, you can pick everything, and it only helps the people that you're leaving behind, because you can name the funeral home, you can name the music, you can name the cemetery, you can name the priest, everything is in there. And think about what a gift that is to a child. I don't know if any of you have been responsible, like she said, for somebody. I have. It is a god-awful position to be in. And you're making, before they even die, you're making all these decisions for somebody else. And that's a hard burden to bear, to make sure that you're doing the right thing. Then they pass, and you've got all of this to take care of too. So that's what I would just say. It's better to always elaborate. It's a gift to whoever it is that you're leaving to clean up a mess, because it is a mess, cleaning up someone's life.
Is there a special form? Or you just write it?
Well,
What your
if
directive
you
says.
work with a law firm, they would give you, whatever they consider the living will or the advance directive, but, 5 wishes.
Yep, 5 wishes.
Five wishes is a good one that you can, go to and document things. You know, you could Google search, a living will or something like that and write that down and have that.
So I could just take a piece of paper and write my wishes?
Yes,
And stick it in with my,
your legal
the
document.
legal document? Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Make sure you sign it.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely make sure you sign it, and it would.
Date it.
Yes, yeah, and share it with whomever you're asking to help fulfill it.
Mhm.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So we won't belabor the advance directive. I think everybody here is following how important that is. I think just to bring it back to the message of quality of life, it's not just about when you are gone. None of this is about when you're gone. It is, or just about when you're gone. It is really about living your best quality of life through all phases of aging. So you really need to think about what that means to you and what some of the circumstances you might find yourself in where you would want somebody to know. You know, imagine that you have a cancer diagnosis and it's, you know, what brings you joy in a day could help alleviate some of this pain and the distress that you're under. Well, maybe the person that is caring for you doesn't even know, I like shea butter on my feet at night. I like to have a whiskey at 9 o'clock before I fall asleep. Like, what are those things that bring you comfort, that alleviate some of your concerns, some of your stress, that would help you feel better as you're going through that rough time in your life? Because those are things that are very, very personal to you, and the person, the caregiver may or may not know that about you. Okay, you want this one?
So DNR in most forms, DNR is do not resuscitate. Okay, so it is really important, and most of the time, people don't fill out DNRs until they're sick, right? Or you have this certain diagnosis that they, they think it's kind of a grave diagnosis. Because then you have to decide, DNR means do not resuscitate. So if your heart starts beating, they can either bring it back or stop it. If you have that, they're gonna let you go of natural causes. If you don't have one of those, it is in every EMT, every paramedic, and every doctor on the face of this earth to save your life, and that's what they're gonna do. But if you didn't tell anybody that, you didn't fill out one of those forms, no one knows it. Sometimes when you're hit with that is you have a loved one that's in the hospital, and it doesn't matter if they're younger or they're older, but all of a sudden they find themselves with this crazy illness and they're going down and things don't look good. And they'll ask their healthcare proxy, do you DNR or full code? So that's the difference, you're either full code or you DNR. So sometimes if you didn't have anything written down, then that healthcare proxy has to make that decision and say, you know what, I think we've tried a lot of things. My father wouldn't want to live like this. Let's sign a DNR, and the healthcare proxy can sign it. It's also, like I said, really important to have that document at home. That's where the most form comes in. That most form is a doctor's order. The DNR is too, but the most form is a doctor's order. It has to be signed by a doctor. You can get those two from your primary care. I'm sure you can get them online, like Krista has mentioned. But the most form is lengthy, it's two-sided. It's a bunch of questions. You just check them off, different categories. It allows the medical team that comes into your house, should they call 911 for you, it's pink. And it's on you, they instruct you to keep it on your refrigerator. And the reason it's on the refrigerator is so when EMTs, paramedics, fire, they bust through your house, and they do bust through your house in some situations. When they do, they immediately go to the refrigerator to see if there's any kind of a form there, because that lets them know what they should do. If you're down, you're unconscious on the floor, you don't have a pulse, you're not breathing, they need to let you go. They need to. It's their responsibility. They're listening to what you told them to do. If you don't have that, or you do have it, but you put it in your bedroom nightstand drawer, they don't see it. They're saving your life. You're gonna be pissed off when you wake up. You're gonna be pissed off. So that's just how important it is. And honestly, like, I can't stress how much I help my best friend because she moved to Florida. Her mom lives here on the Cape. So I help her, and she called me over because she was having an episode, and I was gonna try to drive her to the hospital. It became evident there was no way that was happening. We were calling 911. 911 came, and there were 4 paramedics in her house. One of them was a new paramedic. So he started to tell them to save her life. And they were like, no, you don't understand. I immediately got that form, put it in his face, and then his, whoever was in charge of him, had to stop during this caregiving situation and explain, because of that most form, we're gonna respect her wishes. And she was just taken to Cape Cod Hospital and everything was respected, but.
Say you have a DNR, like, say they resuscitate you, like, can you have it that they resuscitate you once, like, cause you don't really know? Only because of the situation that happened with my brother and my sister-in-law. When my brother, they kept resuscitating him. And then eventually his brain, the nurse says, we can't keep doing this. And she says he wouldn't want it anyway.
So was he a, DNR to begin with? Or was he a full code?
Well, I don't know if she actually had it written down, but she knew his wishes.
Okay.
But he was gonna be brain dead.
I know.
But they must have, because she called 911, they resuscitate him, they had to resuscitate him again in the ambulance, and then when he got to the hospital a couple
It's-
more times, and
it's-
she's like, he wouldn't
I
want
think
that.
It's
the best
all a
thing-
legal
yeah,
thing.
The
It's-
best thing is really, when you go to visit your primary care physician.
Yeah.
Have a conversation about a DNR and a MOLS.
Okay.
Because if you don't have diagnoses that are gonna lead to, a widowmaker heart attack or this, that, the other thing, you may not need or want a DNR.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a very personal decision,
Yeah,
and it has a lot to do with your medical
Condition.
conditions. So you really need to work that out with your PCP and make sure that you're confident. Somebody had my mom's animals, and I was like, You are 70 years old. You do not need a mole. She's super healthy.
Right.
You do not want that because you don't want it to come down to something where you can come back from it and they've made a decision.
And let's not forget, healthcare is a business, multi-trillion-dollar business. What if they need a kidney for a 30-year-old? I'm just saying.
Okay, so,
And I want you all to know though that you can reverse the DNR. Like for my sister-in-law, it was looking bad. We almost lost her a couple of times. We knew that she wouldn't want to be like this. We made her a DNR. Then she survived. And a couple of days went by where she was stable, really stable. So then we lifted it and she started to wake up and she started to come back to us.
But
So
how
then we
did you know
lifted it.
she wanted you to do that?
Well, again, she has nothing written down and we're gonna have quite the conversation when she is feeling up to this. But, just from knowing her, I met her when she was 24 years old. She's a nurse. I'm in healthcare. We always talk about everything. We've been at bedside by every family's demise. And so we know each other really well. And so we were going off of that, my brother and I were going off of what we knew she would want.
Okay.
That's it. But if you don't know somebody that well,
we're gonna talk a lot more about advocates and having an advocate in your corner. But that is why we're here, because it's so important that you have somebody that can help have these conversations with your medical team, who can help speak on your behalf. And you really need to be having those conversations with them so that they are going to follow your wishes. Because you don't know what tomorrow is gonna bring. Could be a car accident, a diagnosis, anything, anyone, any age. So the sooner you have these conversations, the sooner that you have these things in place, the better prepared your team is going to be to help you through it and adhere to your wishes.
and just remember that those are important documents, but like she said, not until they're actually needed and you usually have a heads up.
I don't understand, who says that they want to be on life support for years? And how do you get to choose, because who pays the insurance for somebody?
Well, the insurance does pay for it, and at my hospital, we do have 5 patients that live there on a ventilator. People do it. My own personal, my mother.
Oh.
When I got into healthcare, she was 70. My first job as a physical therapist, she was 70. And I started having these conversations with her, and she wanted to live at all costs. And I couldn't understand it, so I like leaned, I go, do you understand what I'm saying? She was a nurse. You are a vegetable in bed. We can't talk to you.
You're
you
alive,
can't talk-
but you're not living.
She said, I don't care. I might have something that I want to say before I die.
Oh.
And that's what she wanted, full code.
It's all very personal decision, very personal. And this is, again, one of the reasons we're here, is to get you thinking about it. If you haven't given this thought,
At least
you can see
now.
how complicated things are and how layered things are.
And don't let this be overwhelming. Takes one small step, like when Krista started off. You take one small step by focus on the healthcare proxy. That's all said and done. Wait, pick the next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't go attack it unless you hire an attorney.
There are only 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need a caregiver. This is a very important point, because if you haven't been a caregiver, it is one heck of a job. There is an awful statistic that I'm going to share with you. 40% of people who are providing care for someone die before the person they're caring for. So the point is that if you are a caregiver, you want to understand as much as you possibly can about the person you're caring for. It'll make it so much easier. And if you are someone who could eventually need care, which all of us could, you're giving them a gift by getting these things in order, by writing your wishes down and having the conversations that we keep talking about. So how can I be an advocate for my loved one? This is a very, very tough job. And as you can hear from our conversation, we've both been in that position quite a bit. And it takes a toll on you. And there's a lot of things that you can do in preparation and through the process that can help you be a good advocate. So, imagine that your loved one is in the hospital and really can't, speak for themselves at the time. You want to be in a place where you are asking really good questions. It is very important as a caregiver to have a notebook. Keep documentation as much as you possibly can, dates, time. My sister-in-law is up at, Beth Israel, in Boston right now with my 21-year-old niece. She has a very rare disorder. Every time she shows up in the ER, it's like it's starting all over again. We're readmitting her, we're researching her, they know what the diagnosis is, but the doctors there, they don't understand it because they haven't seen it before. So it is so important for my sister-in-law to document every single conversation, have all of the files with her for the tests and the things that they've already gone through. So they can communicate back to the medical professionals, this is where we're at, this is where we need your help. So it's very important, again, to be the person who's documenting that if you're the caregiver.
When you're involved, you're not going to remember what they said. There's several different people coming into that person's room, and you're lucky if you can even remember their names after, a certain point. So just to speak to what Krista had mentioned, it's overwhelming, it's confusing, but if you write it down, you have it. And then another thing I think is think of our grandparents. They didn't have to worry about this because they had one doctor and the doctor took care of everything. We think, because we have all our stuff on medical records, that our doctors are talking to each other. They're not. Even if they're in the same hospital, they're not. And so that's why it's so important to have everything written down, like she said, because then you are the one bringing them up to speed. That will make them research something. And I'm going to say something that I have learned over the past 35 years, and I say it to everybody, and half the people don't get it. Just because you have a comma and an MD after your name doesn't make you a good doctor, okay? But people trust them. Yes, comma, MD.
It's
No.
really hard to be an advocate for somebody when the medical professionals aren't hearing you. So the more documentation that you have and the better organized you are and the more knowledge you have about the person's situation, the better you'll be able to communicate with the medical staff.
And doctors don't like Google, right? They don't like you to Google things. But listen, how does the average person know the questions to ask if you don't Google it? And then make sure that they're doing some form of that kind of treatment.
Okay, again, good notes. You can't ask good questions or give the medical staff good answers unless you have good notes. And I keep all of the records that they give you, keep them organized. Speak up if an interaction isn't going well. Pretty much to what Joanne is saying. If you're not feeling like you're getting the answers that you want, or you're not getting maybe the level of care that you think the person requires, you have every right. And a lot of people feel intimidated by medical professionals, that they know it all. They're hesitant to speak up and ask for things or to have a rebuttal to what they're talking about. You have every right to do that for your loved one and for yourself.
And don't let them intimidate you.
You want to be an extra set of eyes and ears for your, whoever you're helping to take care of. So this might be a telehealth call. You know how they're doing a lot of Zoom meetings with your doctors? You want to sit in and make sure that you're hearing everything and taking those notes. You want to bring up the things, maybe the person who's being cared for doesn't really want to bring up the fact that, their numbers were off or,
They fell.
or, they're not willing to be forthcoming. It's the caregiver's kind of job to let the medical professionals know all of the pieces of the puzzle. Being present, it's hard being at a hospital, long days. You might be there 9, 10, 12 hours. You're sleeping there, you're traveling back and forth. God forbid you're on Cape, but you have to go up to the Boston hospital and you're stuck in traffic, and then it's very difficult to be present and be mindful of what's happening. So, think about your own self-care and what you need in order to be a good advocate for the person that you're caring for. If you're in that situation where you're going to Boston, maybe you get a hotel room rather than trying to drive back and forth every night. Maybe you need backup. Maybe you need to ask a friend to drive you into Boston rather than doing that on top of everything else you're trying to figure out. So the idea is to really just be present for the person you're caring for and available for those conversations with the medical people. Advocating at home, same thing. Those telehealth calls are great because it saves you a lot of time, but it's easy to forget to ask questions or to push. It seems like the doctor's in a rush. They don't really have time to talk to you. That's your time. Get your answers. We talked about getting your paperwork in order already. When you're old.
I don't know anything about that. So I'm overwhelmed right now. That's why I was a little late. I am currently a caregiver. I've done all 4 of those things that Krista mentioned in the other slide. So unexpectedly, I got a call from my brother. I was on Cape Friday night, just got home from the beach, ready to have a glass of wine. I don't understand what they're telling me. Sandy's in the hospital. I think they're trying to prep me for the end. Now I'm floored. I just spent a beautiful day at the beach. I'm gonna have a glass of wine. The end of what? Like, how does that come out of nowhere that someone's gonna die, right? So that's how floored. So anyways, he said, yeah, I said, okay. I went up to Boston and I have been caregiver, not to Boston, sorry, Worcester. And I've been a caregiver. So I'm very overwhelmed right now. I was late because I just came back from her house. She was 4 weeks in the ICU, 1 week on the floor, 4 weeks at a rehabilitation center like mine. And now she's home and she's having problems. It was so hard. What you have to do, the best thing to do is to do what she said. You have to reach out to other people and have them help you because it's too overwhelming. And that patient that you love, they need your care because they're just alone. They're so sick, they don't even know how to fight for themselves. So I've built myself a team. When I was in the hospital, a friend of mine introduced me to her case manager. He became my partner. We were silent. We didn't let anybody else know what we were doing, but we were manipulating the system. Some case managers will do that for you. If they get to know you, they understand that you're trying to do the best by this person, they will try to work with you to help you. I had to then I don't ever reach out to a nephew who's a doctor, but I made every single decision that needed to be made. And after I made that, I was like, what if I made the wrong decision? I don't know. I just think that this is what I should do, and it sounds like the right thing. So I called him and said, hey, you just need to listen to me. This is what they want to do. I said, no, yes or no. And then he would help me. I know not everybody has a doctor in the family. I never thought I would, but he married my niece and he's in her family. So I used him. Who wouldn't? If you have a friend or a friend of a friend, use that. People that are caregivers like that, they usually try to help. And especially the helpers to begin with, but especially because everybody knows how messed up healthcare is right now. So I had my family doctor, I had a case manager. I could not rely on the doctors that were at the hospital. I didn't agree with them. I didn't think he was as brilliant as he came off. I thought he was that brilliant. I thought he was making wrong choices. And he did, and he could have put her in more serious danger than she was in. I had my brother, who my brother needed me and would not be able to survive this without me, and his wife would have died. I had to let him know there was no power of attorney. All we had was a healthcare proxy. We were left to make the decisions. She woke up and said, take me home on hospice. He wanted to take her home on hospice. I had to set him straight. You are too emotional right now. She doesn't have the cognitive status to be making this kind of decision. She's kind of waking up. She knows something down in her throat. She's a nurse. She doesn't know. She could think she's going to be on that for the rest of her life. Take me home. She wasn't in a place to make that decision. I had to talk him off the ledge and stop him from letting her go. And so that it's things like that. So he had this great team. I had this great team. I also had one of her daughters. And it doesn't stop. You go from the ICU where you do get a lot better attention and care in the ICU because a nurse only has 1 or 2 patients to take care of. So they're kind of there at your beck and call. kind of like having a baby, it's great, right? They hear a whistle, they run. But then you come out of the ICU and you're on a regular floor, and that's a whole different story. They've got 5, 6 patients, and they're not running to help you, and now things are happening to us. It's always good to be by somebody's side. In that case, I had to start drawing a new team, some of the old team, but some new team too, so that I could talk things over and make sure she was managed correctly. And honest to God, we were always there.
And that's kind of the point of this next slide is create a support network. Before you even get into a situation, make sure you know who's on your team. So who is your healthcare agent? Who is your power of attorney? Who is gonna help facilitate some financial decisions? Do you have a financial planner? Do you have a CPA? Do you have a medical professional that you trust in your family or in your
A
friend
neighbor?
group? Yeah, is there somebody, a lot of times, you know, on the Cape, there are a lot of people who are aging in place by themselves. And if you are one of those people, do you have a professional potentially, like a geriatric care manager or a life care manager? Somebody who can help come in and be that advocate for you. They can play the role of a healthcare proxy. They can play the role of a power of attorney. They can help get to know you while you're still well, so that when you're not well, they know what kind of decisions to make on your behalf. It's, regardless if you're, you know, by yourself or you have siblings or a spouse or children, adult children to help take care of you, you want to make sure that the team is in place for you. Because when things happen, it's gonna happen like Joanne described, it's gonna be a crisis. And
She was 63 years old,
yeah, who's gonna get that phone call?
pretty darn healthy. And she had an infection that she waited a few days to go to the doctor for. And she showed up septic, and she had a blood clot on her liver. And then it was downhill from there. That's how fast.
Okay, so there are resources for aging adults and caregivers. You can utilize online resources. We've already talked about Massachusetts.gov. I'm sure you've all been on Medicare.gov. There are some changes coming up with Medicare, so it is good to familiarize yourself with those changes. Benefitscheckup.org, that's a really good site to use as well. You can consider hiring an elder law attorney to assist you with the legal documents. Connect with advocacy groups for support and information. If you know anyone on Cape who has a memory loss diagnosis, do you know about Alzheimer's Family Support Center in Brewster? They are phenomenal. We are so lucky to have them in our backyard. They are an organization that delivers lots of free support, education. They have a respite program that they run, lots of support groups that they run. They are somebody, if you are dealing with memory loss diagnosis in your little world, they're somebody that you should reach out to immediately. They're excellent.
I'm just gonna interject for 1 second because Krista's on this subject. So Krista and I are also on the board of this nonprofit group that we're highly involved in. It's called Cape Cod Senior Resource Group. It's been around for a long, long time, but during COVID, it kind of fizzled out. And Krista and myself and 5 other professionals got together and revived it. And we have built a website, and we have done these booklets that Krista did bring enough that you can all take one if you want. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because it matches what she said. Even though we tell you, oh, go build a support group, get references. Well, some people don't know where to start, even though we say go online, right? They still might not know where to go. But this book has categories in it, and maybe it's somewhere you start. Okay, and there's a bunch of different organizations, so maybe it's one phone call, and because you explain it to that person then hooks you up based on your needs with a couple of other people. That would be very helpful. So we'll have these available to you at the end, okay?
That, Alzheimer's group, they have 6 days?
The one building that they have is on 6 days. They have a really awesome facility at the Cape Cod Mall in Hyannis. They just moved to a bigger location because they do a lot of their respite groups there. But you can do a lot of education programs there, and it's unbelievable how much they offer.
And respite programs, in case you don't know, are for caregivers that need a break. So you take a break, maybe you wanna go on a 2-week vacation, but you have nowhere to put mom, it's a respite, so go somewhere for like 2 weeks.
Alzheimer's Family Support Center
They-
can't do that, they do like daily respite.
But I'm sure they help.
They can help you
Yeah.
find a respite.
Yeah.
A lot of the assisted livings on Cape
Yeah.
will offer a respite stay.
Or a skilled nursing facility too.
Respite stays are also a great
These-
way to give people a chance to test out what living in an assisted living might be like for them. And you'd be shocked and surprised, but I'm telling you, it's a pretty glorious living opportunity. Yes, it is expensive, so you have to plan for it, but we have
And
some really nice ones on.
And
Cape.
again, you have to get your resources out because there are organizations that make things out there's easier ways. Military, you get a big stipend that goes towards that, these other things, but that's why you would reach out to an organization and try to get more involved.
How's our Zoom group doing? Are you doing okay? Okay.
Hopefully you're hanging tight.
All right, so really the message for today, it was about plan in advance for yourself and your loved ones. And, you know, we're moving into the holiday season. So 2 points I'll make. One, you're gonna be getting together with people for Thanksgiving, for the, holidays that are coming up, Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year. When you see these people, check in on each other, see how everybody's doing, see who might need some help. If you need help, speak up and talk about your plans. This is a great time to tell the adult children what you're thinking. And as a representative of adult children, I will tell you, it is so appreciated to know what the financial status is, what the plan is, if something were to go on, how I can support my parents as they age and what they're gonna want and need. It takes a lot of pressure off of the adult child when they understand. Okay, so I think that is it. Does anybody have any questions about anything else that we shared today?
All these words are like one language. You said there's another word that they use for executive.
Personal representative, so, things have been changing a lot in, estate planning and elder law. And it used to be called an executor, the person who facilitated the last will and testament and closed out your estate. We now refer to it as a personal representative, and that's a big job. Just think about all the contents of your house and your garage and that barn you have. Like, who has to clean that out? I have had to do this for my aunt and uncle, and it was awful. Awful. So a little trick, if you have things that are valuable or important, go around the house and put stickers on the bottom. Tell, you know, I want this to go to niece niece Janice, and I want this one to go to my daughter, and, you know, this is worth something. Make sure you get something good for it. Junk. There are little tricks you can do to be prepared.
What's the difference in power of attorney and durable power?
So durable just means that it can be more functional for you. So, powers of attorney, you're giving people a lot of authority over your life. And durable means that it can function when you say it does. Okay, so you have a lot more control about when it goes into,
Yeah, and usually it's when you can't speak for yourself for whatever reason.
All right, the durable.
it's
More-
most people are doing durable power of attorneys. Any other questions?
About anything.
All right, well, we'll get you some of those books, because those books I think are really helpful. And it will be around for a little bit longer if you have any other questions you want to ask, but thank you so much for,
I know,
you know,
thank you.
being here with us and making time.
It is.
Yes, yeah.
This is not like a sales pitch or anything, but Krista and I were on this. So I don't know if any of you go to Hyannis during December. They have spectacle of trees there at the Goya Barn. You go look at these 7 beautiful decorated trees. We are selling tickets. They're $10 and you win the tree, the decorations, and $5,000 in the gifts. So if you have any interest, and the money goes to the, printing of these. No, but you can have a copy of that book anyways. And Chris is bringing more out. No, it's just something, if you're interested, you come find me and say, hey, I want to buy a ticket. Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And so you fold that. You're welcome. Yes, but I didn't have it on. Yeah, it was nice speaking.
Nice meeting you, Deb.
Thank you. Meet you.
Yes, very nice. Really. Yes. Oh, you did it with them, not this place? So you're gonna send that.